Let's jump into SEO. So let's talk about the future of SEO and how you can tune your sites to convert as technology evolves. In terms of the agenda for today, we're going to start with a short intro about me and my role at Webflow. Then we're going to touch on the importance of SEO for web, the top relevant SEO trends, SEO capabilities with Webflow, and then recommended SEO practices. I am Raul Solito. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a lead technical architect at Webflow. And essentially what I do is I work with our customers and our partners to make sure that they are building and scaling with the platform in the best way possible. That means best practices, that means risk mitigation, and essentially helping them build so that they can go to market, right? On a little personal note, I'm also a dad. I have a 2-year-old and I have a recent 3-month-old. And the reason why I mention this is because being a father and being a dad just gives you a free pass to say dad jokes about anything you want with no repercussions, right? I mean, repercussions, but you don't really care about them because you're just entitled because you're a dad. So I was thinking about this yesterday and I kind of like set a challenge for me. I said, is it possible for me to create dad jokes for SEO? And let me tell you, it is possible because you can just use ChatGPT and you'll get a lot of good examples. Well, actually, you get a lot of examples. Most of them are not good. But I was able to scrape a couple of them, and just on a lighter note here, before we jump into very technical things, I wanted to start with a couple of them. Again, these are from robots, so if I totally bomb this right now, it's not because of me, it's because of ChatGPT. But I only have 2 of them, so they can also move along if they're terrible. The first one goes as such. Why did the SEO specialist break up with the website? Because they weren't getting enough engagement. That's terrible. Again, second one, then we're done. Why did the website go to therapy? Because it had too many redirects and it was losing its way. Okay, moving along. That wasn't too bad. What are we going to talk about today and what are our takeaways for today? So I want you to walk away with a better understanding on some of the latest SEO trends, shape and optimization. I want you to learn how Webflow's built-in SEO tools and features can give you an edge in optimizing your site for search engines. I want you to get insight into best practices that will help you craft high-performing websites. And finally, I want you to walk away here with actionable knowledge that you can implement immediately, so from day one, right? That's a big thing for TAs. We want to give best practices from day one. So my hope is that either this is new and you're learning something exciting about SEO, specifically to Webflow 2, or maybe you already know it and you're just validating what you already are practicing. All right, let's start with the importance of SEO for web. I think we all, I guess everyone here, maybe most of you are involved in SEO, so you know that SEO is critical. You hear it in your businesses. It's sort of like a must for your digital strategy. And it's important because it allows your brand, your experience to gain visibility, and then everything ties back to dollars, euros, pounds. So it is very strictly related to revenue. And without it, businesses are likely missing on a major portion of their potential market. So what I show you right now is a handful of examples with sort of hard metrics that I found doing some research for this presentation that really drive this point forward. So the first one is this one that I really like. So companies that prioritize SEO are 13 times more likely to generate a positive ROI. So what that means is, it just putting it in simple terms, if you spend $10,000 on your SEO budget, the industry trends, what the industry is telling you is that you can most likely turn those $10,000 into $130,000, right? So it is an extremely beneficial or extremely generous investment that you can make that will give you a lot of ROI. I really like this one too. So only 0.78 of Google users click on results for the second page. And I can completely validate this. I don't even know the last time I clicked the next page for Google. I don't even know what it looks like. So this tells you that if you're not optimizing for SEO, 99% plus of your users are most likely going to they won't see you, right? You will be invisible to them. So that really sort of paints a picture of the importance of optimizing so you can appear on the first page. And then this last one, over 53% of visits to a mobile site are abandoned if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load. I can also validate this one. If I pull up my phone and I load a website and it's taking more than 3 seconds, I have concerns about the security of this website. I have concerns of, maybe some sort of mysterious behavior or something that I'm not trusting. You expect the website to show you that it has security with an SSL, and then you expect it to load fast. So that's a little bit of sort of like social proof. Let's dive into the why. Why would you want your experiences to keep up with these SEO standards? These 3 reasons. So you want them to, your experiences to be visible and discoverable, because SEO increases your visibility, but it also helps you, as we touched on, it helps you appear on the first pages of results, right? So it makes it much more likely that your users will click on your site and they will be aware of your site. It offers you competitive edge. So SEO is, we can look at it as like a race. The algorithm is always changing. New emerging trends are happening now with AI. That's also being incorporated into search engines. So it's always improving and changing. So as a race, you got to keep competing, because if you sort of slow down, your competitors won't slow down and they will get an edge over you. So you have to maintain that competitive edge. And you also want to maintain engaging user experience, right? Modern SEO is directly tied to UX. So sites that load faster, sites that are mobile friendly, responsive, and that offer relevant content are going to rank higher and keep users engaged. So that's a how. We gave you some metrics, some social proof. Let's talk about, the why. Let's talk about the how. How can you meet all these challenges? So today we're going to talk about 3 main themes. We recommend that first you stay ahead of latest innovations. That's very important. Google is changing very fast. So customers and partners and people who are building websites, they want to improve their websites, they need to stay ahead with all these different innovations. It is also imperative to leverage the right platform. So choosing a platform that simplifies SEO and gives you the focus on configuration out of the box will sort of have a competitive edge, because now you can focus on what matters most, which is the content, the actual experience. And then wrapping all this in best practices. So elevating all those different benefits in foundational best practices that are proven to touch on principles that will help you rank better. So let's touch on the first one. Let's talk about, I keep touching the mic. Let's talk about top relevant SEO trends. I'm going to touch on 4 of them. We're going to touch on AI-driven content creation and optimization, on Google's EAT framework, Google AI overviews, and on understanding search intent and providing the best UX for your customers. Let's touch on AI-driven content creation and optimization. What do I mean by this? So we all use ChatGPT, we all use Google Gemini, any other platform that is out there. We use it for many different tasks, including building content. So that is a great tool, but what matters to keep up with this trend is search engines are prioritizing within their algorithm. They're prioritizing high quality content that is relevant, that is authoritative, that is useful, and they are most importantly identifying content that is not covering those requirements, and they are devaluing it and ranking it lower. So content that aligns with search intent and a better user experience will perform way better in search results than content that is generic or potentially with some mistakes that are not caught because it's machine generated. So the best practice here is, yes, use AI. It's a wonderful tool. I mean, I just used it to generate some jokes. It's a wonderful tool to create content, but do not forget to ensure that a human oversight is completely needed here, because you need someone to refine this content to keep it in high quality and to maintain your tone and your voice. You can still use AI to create maybe an overview of that content, maybe create an outline, maybe grab your existing content and create meta descriptions, like speed you up on the process. But again, if you ship content without reviewing it, without making sure that it's accurate, you're gonna get hits in your ranks. Now let's talk about Google's EAT framework. So this stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Why does this matter? So this framework focuses on just websites that are shipping a lot of content, websites that have maybe a heavy level of authority in a industry. Think about like healthcare companies or maybe financial companies, and specifically those companies that focus on shipping content related to what is called YMYL topics. So that means your money, your life. So again, think about like healthcare or finances or whatever affects us as humans. So if you are one of those websites, if you are one of those experiences that are shipping this type of content and you don't showcase experience, authority, and trust, you are less likely to rank well. You will definitely get a hit in rankings. So to maintain those good rankings, focus on transparent practices, securing your sites, and offering genuine reviews for your by actual users and not just sort of like generated users. The best practice here, again, showcase author credentials, link to reputable sources, enable HTTPS on your site, offer a transparent privacy policy, and again, especially for YMYL, focus on building that authority and building that trust for your customers. Let's shift back to AI. So Google AI Overviews. What is this? So AI Overviews is now a section in the search results page that showcases a curated content based on different sources. So users are not even going to search results at times, right? So why this matters is this reduces the need for users to click through the website, so they're getting the information right then and there in the search engine results page, and answers are, as I mentioned, are often provided right there in the search page. So it is essential to, yes, optimize your content for these summaries, but leverage different functionalities like I'll touch on shortly, like schema, the way that you organize your content. I think I'm talking about it here. Yeah, so in order to cater to this, structure your content differently. So answer questions in a clear manner, use bullet points, use headings that relate directly to the user intent, implement schema, as I mentioned, so that you can improve your chances of appearing in AI overviews. Because again, users will see this information, and now you're at a point where you might not even get to your site as a user. They're going to get all their results right then and there. And let's wrap this section up with understanding search intent and providing the best user experience. So why does this matter? So as I mentioned, UX is directly correlated now to SEO. So websites that let's touch on user intent. So websites that don't align with user intent, so websites that don't really cater to what people are querying, that don't craft their content in a way that answers those questions, are going to rank worse. And also for UX, if you have a slow loading website, if you have a confusing navigation, if you have low accessibility even, you're going to struggle to rank well. So the best practice here is, for search intent, conduct your keyword research, understand your user's intent, and ensure that your content delivers to that information. And then for UX, optimize for speed, for responsiveness here, as I say, and mobile friendliness, for accessibility, and have a navigation that enhances your user experience, doesn't harm it. So that we covered a little bit about emerging trends there. Let's switch gears. Let's move towards a point of view of Webflow. This is Webflow Conf, so let's talk about Webflow a little bit. Let's touch on SEO capabilities with Webflow. So as I mentioned, the second theme was leveraging the right platform, right? Webflow allows you to manage metadata, alt text, manage your robots.txt, manage your sitemap, configure your canonical URLs, configure redirects. You can do all of that within the tool, right? And we're providing you all these behaviors so you can focus on what matters most, as I mentioned, which is building the actual content. So why is it important to have native functionality and native capabilities within your platform? It offers you complete control. So with Webflow, as I mentioned, you can manage settings natively so that you can have full control of the absolute necessary, the table stakes, what is absolutely required to succeed in SEO without the need of plugins, without the need of maybe complex workarounds, without the need of maybe having custom development to achieve these results. Why does it matter? Because it gives you consistency and efficiency. So relying on developers or third parties for this type of setup brings risk, right? Because now you could miss some of this configuration. You maybe could introduce risk in the form of setting something incorrectly, so then you miss some of this value that you're providing for positive ranking. And this will all harm you, right? And then it also, it matters because it will put you in a position where you avoid external tools. So as I mentioned, if you go native, then you don't have to rely on plugins. You don't have to rely on configuration maintenance and setting things up from scratch. So having it natively allows you to focus on what matters most, which is building those experiences, crafting that content. And in a nutshell here, so native SEO capabilities from Webflow allow you to focus on very quickly configuring, setting up what is absolutely necessary and foundational for SEO, but then switch gears towards what matters the most and put the most effort on building content, on creating experiences that are engaging, on focusing on your user experience, on your performance, on your accessibility, things that are much more intensive. So now let me do a little time check here. I think we're doing good. Let's talk about best practices. I want to cover 3 themes here. So we're going to touch on user experience and technical optimization, content structure, and continuous improvement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a handful of best practices here. Just know that they all apply to any platform you're using, but because this is Webflow, we're talking about Webflow, I also want to connect them directly to Webflow. So you can apply the best practice in whatever tool you're using if you're not using Webflow, but also I'm going to highlight how you can just do that very quickly, very efficiently with Webflow. So let's talk about UX and technical optimization. Let's start with responsive design. So what is this, if some of y'all don't know? So responsive design is building your site in a way that it reacts to the different viewports, right? So ensuring that your experiences are loading and are essentially accessible and visible in a desktop, in a mobile device, and a tablet. So why is this important for SEO? Specifically, it's important because SEO is prioritizing mobile-first indexing, right? So you need to make sure that your website loads very well on a mobile device because that will boost your rankings. And not doing that will harm your rankings. Now, how can you tackle this in Webflow? We offer real-time design adjustments. You can design directly in the platform. For responsive, you can manage the different viewports and essentially make your design your homepage or different pages right there in the canvas and make sure that they're available on every single device that might represent them. Okay, now let's switch to optimization a little bit. So site speed optimization. In terms of this best practice, this means specifically for SEO, avoiding a high sort of bandwidth or size of assets, having a lot of third-party scripts visible on your site, building your site in a way that maybe has a very bloated code base that then exports to whatever your content delivery network is. So all of these aspects of a website will contribute to a negative performance, and that will directly affect your rankings. So how can you tackle this with Webflow? We offer built-in hosting powered by a CDN. We offer native asset compression. We offer also automatic image optimization when you bring images in. And all these different factors natively ensure that your page is loading fast, and which is directly associated, as we keep mentioning, to UX, but then also directly to SEO. Clicking a little bit deeper into optimizations for websites, let's talk specifically about assets. So assets are one of the major contributors to a low performance. So having large uncompressed images, having maybe large videos will definitely slow your site. So it is imperative to find ways to optimize those, whether it's in tool or maybe by default having assets that have a good compression attached to them, because that will definitely, if you do it well, it'll benefit your SEO rankings. But if you sort of don't put enough attention to this, you will definitely get harmed by this. How do we tackle this? We offer also native compression, as I mentioned previously. We offer native compression for all images. You can choose different file types too. You can choose AVIF or WebP, which are the most highly performant file types. And we also take it a step further. We offer the ability to do lazy loading. You can maybe display images beneath the fold and select for those type of images, lazy load them so that they don't affect your synchronous loading of your site, which can then affect your web core vitals in Google, and the list goes on. It just kind of opens a can of worms. So you can manage that directly in Webflow. So this means that you can manage all your media and you can use it in your designer, but you don't have to sacrifice performance to have a very engaging experience with Webflow. Okay, let's talk a little bit about code. What's the best practice in terms of SEO for code? Google expects semantic readable code because essentially what a robot is doing, it's crawling your site and it is gaining context of what your website is, right? The gaining context of your content and then sort of like putting that through the algorithm and identifying if you're meeting user intent, if you're sort of like web vitals like bounce rate are low, or your dwell time, the amount of time that your users are on your site, is high. So that is partially driven by clean code. So you need to make sure that the code that you're building is semantic and that it's optimized, right? How do we handle that? By default, when you build with us, you are building semantic code. Everything that you're doing in the designer, no matter what it is, will output as semantic code. So we take that away from you completely. And now every time you build a site with Webflow and you deploy it, we will compile it, we will ship it to our CDN, and it will always be the most sort of highest level of semantic code that you can have, because we put a lot of intent into that. So we essentially just take that away from you completely. Now let's talk a little bit very quickly about security. So this is a simple one, but a very important one. If you have a site that doesn't have an HTTPS protocol, you are going to get some negative hits on SEO. It is the industry standard. So you need to make sure that your site has an SSL certificate that is active and that is providing your users with that experience. And if it expires, then you're going to have an issue with the user experience, right? Because if it's expired and people go to your HTTPS URL, they're going to get an error. So you need to make sure that you maintain that very diligently. How we handle that, we offer free SSL certificates to all the sites that you host with us. So when you're building with us and you deploy, it'll have that website will have an SSL attached to it, and it'll be also the industry standard, which is Let's Encrypt. So you don't really have to worry about that. Let's talk about user engagement signals. What do I mean by user engagement signals? I touched it a little bit earlier, but this is metrics such as like bounce rates, or again, dwell time, metrics that are related to the engagement of your users, right? How they are interacting with your websites. These are also relevant for search engines, and this is what relates to user experience. If you're having a user experience that is not engaging, that is causing sort of an experience that is not enjoyable and engaging to your customers, then that will directly impact SEO. So with us, with Webflow, we offer you site performance capabilities, as I mentioned, right? You can optimize your site. We offer you the ability to design responsibly. We also have very good interactive features with our interactions, which, as we all found out last week, now we have GSAP, so that's going to get even better. So all of that gives you the capabilities to create experiences that are engaging, that are going to captivate your users. So with building with Webflow ensures that you are maintaining those user engagement signals. Okay, that's UX and the technical aspect of it. Let's talk about content structure. This will be a little more foundational, but it is still very important because, as I mentioned, most best practices are foundational in SEO. It's sort of like a rigid set of rules. And this is a very easy one, but not doing it is going to bypass some valuable rank points that will make you appear higher in results and just like be more relevant to your end users. So proper heading hierarchy, what we're talking about here is keeping your header. So in HTML, you have H1 to H6. So you need to make sure that you respect the hierarchy, because Google or other search engines expect that hierarchy so that they can understand your code, right? And when they understand your semantic code, then they understand your content. So having like an H2 or an H3 at the top and then an H1 at the bottom, things of that nature, sounds very silly and kind of like very simple, but breaking those rules are going to cause you some SEO challenges. So the best practice with Webflow is very straightforward. You can build freely, right? You can build in Designer and put headings where they go, and you just have absolute freedom. You can still make these mistakes, but what we also offer is directly in tool, we have the audit panel that will alert you if you're breaking that hierarchy. So you can keep track of that directly in Webflow. It's a very nifty little tool that I find very useful. And let's talk about optimal URL structure. So search engines also expect clean, readable URLs, and not only search engines, but humans, right? So it's imperative to have full control of your URL structure and the ability to edit these different URLs and keep them as concise as you can. If you didn't have Webflow, then you probably have to manage this manually in a different platform. I mean, I come from a development background, so I would have to manage all these in an htaccess file, ship that to the server, and that wasn't fun at all. So with Webflow, now you can manage that directly in tools, so you can manage all those in the site settings. And then let's talk quickly about featured snippet design. So feature snippet design, what do we mean by this? So the feature snippets are, just as I covered AI overviews, feature snippets are another additional section that is now a part of search results that provide you sort of a more concise and shorter version of content that is driven by different websites, right? So now Google is not only crawling your sites and displaying results, but it's crawling your sites and taking the content and displaying them in the result page. So this is the same challenge as AI overviews, where users are not even going to your site at times. They just go to the search result and they get all the information there, and they could just convert there or not convert. So the best practice here, specifically to Webflow, is to leverage all the capabilities that I've been talking about. So using the designer to create content, to have all the flexibility to build structured content, to build lists or whatever that might be, but also giving you the ability to bring in schema markup, which is, I think I'll talk about it in a little bit. That's just some metadata that you can craft and include in your pages that communicate to Google additional information. And now Google has further context and can make more sense of your content, sort of improving your possibilities of appearing in AI overviews. Now let's talk about the last section here, which is continuous improvement. The best practice here is we're going to touch on sort of activities that you want to constantly partake so that you can keep your content fresh, or you can just make sure that you're ranking better. It's more maintenance. So the first one is that one, keeping content fresh. So a best practice, very general best practice, as we mentioned, SEO is a race. So you want to keep competing, and that means staying ahead of your competitors by showing relevant content, by doing your proper research of not only your competitors, but the user intent, and serving the content that matters to them. So that requires a platform that is giving you the possibilities to ship fast. So Webflow allows you to manage all your content, allows you to ship very easily because you can just ship with one click, and also allows you to leverage the CMS, for instance, to be able to build content without even touching templates and shipping content with one click. So that allows you, as a content author, as a marketer, even as a designer, it gives you the possibilities to build fast and ship fast, which the output here is keeping content fresh. And then let's touch on structured data markup. So I mentioned it briefly. This, as I mentioned, is sort of like a key value pair metadata that you can download. There's actually a website, it's called schema.org. It's a public website. Pretty sure Google is behind that, but that website will give you a lot of great information on the different types of schema that are available. Like, for instance, if you have an e-commerce site, it'll give you information on the product schema that you can put on every product page, and that'll feed that type of metadata into Google, improve your chances of ranking. And although with Webflow you don't have a native functionality for this, our native functionality for code bodes very well with this, because now, whether it's at the site level, at the page level, or even like a custom embed, you can easily bring that schema, include it in that section, and then if you're in a CMS collection, for instance, you can do it at the template level, and then just bind data that is dynamic to these different key value pairings, and now you're shipping metadata for all your different blogs or your news or whatever that might be. With other platforms, you would most likely have to go into the code and custom code some of this, probably do more API calls to gather more data and make sure that the schema is accurate. And then let's touch on SEO apps. So what I mean by this for best practice, so there's so many different products out there. I'm a little old school, as I mentioned, my background is in development. I was a huge fan of using like Screaming Frog to crawl out my sites to identify sort of like the SEO opportunities. So that is sort of kind of like a universal best practice to leverage all these different products that are out there, specifically for Webflow. So in our platform, you can bring all these different products, because we have our designer APIs available, right? So that means that you can create something that is communicating directly with designer, crawling your content into your pages, updating your metadata, whatever that might be. But I also want to do a little bit of a shout out. So I want to highlight the Fluid SEO app, and I don't know where folks are here, but yeah, there you go. Hey, that's Tom, right? Yeah. So Fluid SEO, one of my favorite apps. So using that, you can just spin it in your designer. You can do some bulk functionality to change like alt text in your images. You can, speaking of schema, you can bring schema into your site. You can get examples of schema. and you can also do audits. It's very, very robust. You can do it all then and there in the designer. So you don't have to go to another tool. You don't have to crawl your site. You can just do it there. So yeah, shout out to Fluid. And we'll wrap things here. Let's wrap with continuous improvement with 301 redirects, another very sort of standard foundational one, but very important. When you're making any changes within your site, if you're shipping new content, if you're keeping content fresh, you need to make sure that you create that bridge between the old content, the old experiences, and the new experiences. Because most likely those have ranked before, and if it's very relevant content, it's most likely ranked very well. So you want to make sure that any change that you make, you are building that bridge to direct your users. Otherwise, if you click an organic result in Google and you go to a 404, that's no bueno. You're going to get definitely a rank hit, and it's such an easy change to manage. So as I mentioned in the past, you needed a different tool. You needed to leverage developers, but with us, you can do all that natively in the platform. You go to your site settings, and then you just configure all of the redirects right then and there. You can update, you can delete, you can create new ones. And then the final one I want to highlight is site auditing. In terms of best practices, you want to make sure that you're constantly auditing your experiences. You are crawling them for performance sort of gaps, images that are large, maybe a lot of third-party scripts. And this will allow you to continue to adhere to best practices, right? You'll make sure that you continue to check on your experience so that you're catching gaps, you're catching issues. And although we don't offer a feature for this, my team at Webflow, so the team of TAs, work with all our enterprise customers to audit their sites. We audit them on performance, we audit them on sort of like general best practices for building, and then we also audit them for SEO. So we'll identify any issues with assets, any issues with missing titles, any issues with maybe like a lot of heavy script loading that is causing a very huge hit on performance. We'll catch all that and we'll present it to our customers. So also general practice, right? Really encourage you all to audit constantly. And that covers everything that we want to talk about today. So we talked about staying ahead with the latest innovations. We talked about leveraging the right platform and the power behind having native configuration of SEO. And then we also wrapped everything with best practices. So in terms of what's next, I hope that you can just apply all this and go and dominate your SEO strategy. So thank you all for joining us, and any questions?
Thank you for the talk. It was really useful. One question I have is on redirects, actually, and especially as Webflow tends to be the platform that companies migrate to. Mm-hmm. Obviously they tend to keep some traffic going to past URLs. Is there anything on the roadmap around allowing Webflow to analyze?
Sorry, go ahead.
Right, current implementation and get all the URLs and then propose new links, or like a way of like capturing all those leads going to those past URLs into the new.
So like an automated way to identify?
So that you don't have to go one by one linking them to the new.
Oh, you mean bulk? Like updating in bulk?
Yeah.
It's already possible to do bulk update of 301 redirects.
Okay.
Yeah. So in platform you can already do that, but crawling, I think that would need something external, right? Using something like a Screaming Frog or other apps that are available. You crawl, you get a list, and then you can either do it via the settings, or you can use the APIs to do that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also referring to this question regarding redirects, for example, we're using Yoast plugin for WordPress, and we can use the regex expressions for redirects, for example, for also bulk redirecting. Would be such a thing also possible? Yeah,
you can do regex in Webflow. Yeah.
Cool.
You just bring all those, and you can create a wildcard redirect, star, and it'll do everything. Anything you can do there applies. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Wonderful. I'm so happy that I'm able to give you good answers.
Hi. Excuse me. I'm a bit croaky from last night. Hey, thanks for the shout out for Fluid SEO.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of this stuff is obviously super relevant, super applicable. This whole SEO thing has been in development for 20 years, like trying to get to the top of Google. So a lot of this stuff is been around for a long time. And something I'm thinking about, I'd love to hear if you have a perspective on this. Something I'm thinking about is, okay, now that LLMs exist and people ask ChatGPT instead of Google for stuff, how is that changing what people need to do on their site so that they are still used as a resource, whether it's with Perplexity or ChatGPT or whatever? How is it changing what you need to do on your website so that you are still showing up when you're not being searched in Google?
So are we talking about like using ChatGPT instead of Google, just using that as a search engine essentially?
Yeah, and so like how do companies that
Right.
using putting content on their site, how do they in the future in 5 years
Yeah.
still be relevant?
That is a really good question. So something, I mean, this is an assumption, but I would think that, I would have to validate this, but I would think that the same principles apply to how ChatGPT crawls websites or gathers information about websites. So my uninformed opinion would be that it all comes down to content. Like that's how you tackle Google. So why wouldn't you tackle other systems like LLM like that, right? So, I mean, I would have to fact check that. Don't take my word on it. But as we continue to see just on our chat today, but I think just generally, user experience is just powering everything, not only users, but now machines. So you need to make sure that your site has engaging content. You need to make sure that it's authoritative. You need to make sure that you are mapping your content to what your user research is telling you. It all comes down to the content. So I would just follow that same principle. Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah, right here.
What kind of tools do you use for auditing and tracking the enterprise website? And would it be possible, or is it planned to also offer it for other plans?
So let me answer the first question first. So we use a combination of tools. We use Screaming Frog a lot. That's just it's just such an industry standard, and it's very easy to leverage that. But we've also, so my team has built a proprietary auditing tool. It leverages APIs, so it's also using PageSpeed Insights APIs to gather information directly from them and inform on like web core vitals. So performance of your site, if you have any sort of like penalizing scripts that you're loading, things of that nature. But yeah, it's all proprietary. The way that we tackle that API and some other custom APIs to crawl your site and not only focus on SEO, but we emphasize a lot on user experience. You can tell I talk about it a lot, but we believe that it all comes down to user experience, and now obviously user experience is so directly correlated to SEO. So we focus on performance, we focus on accessibility, and so on. So it's a combination of tools, and then I don't know if we're gonna sort of give it out to everyone, but definitely something that's in our radar. Like, how can we ship this or a version of this as sort of like not a core offering, but a part of Webflow, so that anyone who has a Webflow account can leverage it. So it's in our mind. I don't know the specifics how we're going to do it, because all those sort of services also come at a cost. So we're just trying to see how we can scale it. But that's really good feedback. Good to hear that there's some need for that. Awesome. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about Webflow Optimize and SEO. If we use Webflow Optimize to test some content variation, how it will be affect our SEO?
That is such a good question. So what we're talking about is if you're using Optimize and you're changing content on the fly, will that affect your SEO? I would have to put a pin through that. My gut tells me that your base is the truth and that your personalization is just driving users, not Google. But I feel like maybe it might be a combination. Like you're doing personalization again to target your users because the URL remains the same. If you have ads, you most likely have the same ad, and you're switching in based on the data that Google is sharing to you when a user clicks, where they come from, if they came from an email or whatever. So I think the personalization aspect and the dynamic aspect is very user focused. I think you need to do additional work, whether it's sort of like hydrating your experience with more metadata so that you're also catering for just kind of like the broader user intent, and you're making sure that you're appearing in results for different queries. I think that's sort of like the solution for that problem. I don't think we can handle it from the optimized level because everything there is dynamic. I don't think we can change your core configuration of your metadata. So I think it's a combination of things. I kind of answered that question myself too, as I was thinking about it. But yeah, I think you have to maintain that sort of like in tandem, optimizing how you're reaching your users and then catering towards all those use cases within your core metadata. Yeah. Really good question. Anything else, Hugo?
Yeah, thank you so much. Follow-up question to Optimize and generally Webflow and AI. Currently, as far as I understood it, Optimize, basically you give the input, hey, please create a variant of my current page, and then Optimize is handling the optimization of it. Is there anything planned that data from Analyze is giving recommendations to optimize your page? I mean,
that's
sorry
funny,
for the confusing wording here, but
I just had that question today from a customer. So just to echo your question, you're saying we have Analyze as well as Optimize. Can we just feed data directly driven by Analyze?
yeah, basically.
To just contribute to like the AI aspect, right? The machine sort of algorithms that are determining different combinations and what's succeeding. That's a little out of my scope.
Okay.
My very soft answer is yes. These are two native platforms, so I have no doubt that we're going to find reasons, and here's one of them, but just opportunities to connect them together and to leverage the power because they're both very powerful separate. Why wouldn't we connect them? So I would maybe just keep an eye on that and see how things evolve. We just launched these two platforms, and it's V1, but they're going to continue to improve in a very short launch. So yeah, just heads up there and just keep an eye. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. No, thank you, everyone.